Welcome back to the Mothership, and on this episode, we're going to talk about, of course, Cowboys encouraging throwing trash on the field. Also, a champion needing to be deported from a country. And there's other things, too. Of course, we're going to get to the playoffs, and we're going to get to what's happened this past week. But for right now, let's get to the headlines. Dateline Tampa. So it's not necessarily what happened in Tampa per se, but during the Eagles-Buccaneers game, it was basically a laugher. I mean, it was at the time 31-0. The game ended up being 31-15 in favor of the Bucs. But in the fourth quarter, Joe Buck, the number one play-by-play announcer in football for the professional football for the Fox network, kicked it to Troy a little bit and basically saying, well, here's what's coming up for later on today. And when he mentioned the 49ers Cowboys game, Mr. Aikman had a little bit of fun, but you knew he was being serious when he said, quote, "It's going to be a great game. I mean, a really good game. I think there's a lot of people who would like to be calling that game, but should be a lot of fun." Poor Troy. Close quote. Now, I understand what Troy was talking about, but all right, follow me here, VIP. Now, this is how you normally have networks actually apply for these types of things. So in each round, there's a bidding war, so to speak, as to who's going to take what slot. So the highest bidder, of course, will get the slot. Well, CBS thought the Sunday 4:25 kickoff in the wild card weekend would be a coveted spot, and they forked the money for it. I think it was to the tune of $75 million. Fox did not come up with that type of money. So, Mr. Aikman, if you want to direct your ire towards somebody directed toward your upper echelon at Fox, they didn't bid high enough. Oh, well, that's how it goes. Dateline Portland. Dame Dollar. This sucks when I say this. He's going to be out for 6 weeks and possibly longer. And he's already missed 5 games before this injury, but he's going to be gone for a while because he has to have surgery to repair a core that was torn from his abdominal muscles. Man, this sucks to say it, but it's of course it's sports. That's what happens. Lillard had this to say about the festivities. Quote, "It wasn't easy at all because I just love being out there. Like, I love being out there playing. I've always been available to play, but I think the older you get, the more experience that you have, just not in sports, but in life, it becomes more important to play chess. My pride might say, keep fighting it out, get the job done, try to get in the playoffs. But then the older me is saying, you can't do none of that stuff if you're not at your best." Close quote. Dame, all I got to say to that is,
yes!
And this is why he's one of my favorite players in the NBA. He gets it. He gets it. It's unfortunate. He's now at a time of his life where he just can't roll out of bed and just dribble. He's going to be having some aches and pains that's going to basically curtail what he could normally do with a snap of a finger. But I pray that everything is fine for you, man. I hope you heal well. And I hope that timetable is right in 6 weeks because I really do not want it to be longer. The game is much, much less interesting and much less exciting without you, cold as ice on the court, hitting those threes. Dateline, Kansas City. In the 42-21 beatdown, because it really was a beatdown, the Chiefs gave the Steelers. It seemed as though this was the end of the road for one Ben Roethlisberger, the quarterback for the Steelers, and he's been that since 2004. Basically feels that this is the end, but he has not really said officially yet it is. But the comments that he said here tend to let you think that it is the end. But he said this, quote, shoot. We thought last week was going to be the end. We got blessed to play another football game. Didn't in the way we wanted to, but it's a blessing to play this football game. How lucky are we to play football for a living? We have to count our blessings. Close quote. And I do agree with you, Ben. You do have to count your blessings. Now, he is a controversial figure because earlier in his career, he had to settle out of court twice for rape allegations. But during the last few years, he's actually become more of a religious guy. We should say spiritual guy. He's basically been baptized again. He's turned his life over to the Lord. And he's been public about that. And it looks like he is about settled in his soul that he's going to retire. But from ones who are going to retire to ones that look like they're going to have a springboard to more promising things to come. Dateline, Cincinnati. Joe Burrow, I think, is the breath of fresh air Cincinnati football has needed, whether it is college or pro. Now, yes, I know the Bearcats actually made it to the CFP semifinals, but that city lives and dies on the Bengals. And to understand, the Bengals haven't been to the divisional round, or they haven't won a game to get to the divisional round since 1990. Ice Ice Baby by Vanilla Ice was number one right around the time the Bengals won their last playoff game. But Burrow seemed to channel all that probably even before the game last week at home against the Raiders. They beat them 26-19, and he had an eye on what Cincinnati felt they needed, and he has an eye on more things too. After the game, he had this to say, quote, "It's exciting for the city and for the state, but we're not going to dwell on that. We're moving forward. We're ready for whoever we have to play next." Close quote. And as you know, this weekend, what you have next, Mr. Burrow, is a trip to Nashville because you're going to play against the Titans. Now, to understand what I think about this game, just simply go to the 2-minute warning, or you just click the card that's at the top right, and it'll take you to what I think about the Bengals and Titans. But we're going to stay where we are. Dateline, Cincinnati. Now, we talked about the quarterback of the team. How about the head coach, Zac Taylor? Well, he also understood the gravity of the victory that Cincinnati pulled off, the Bengals pulled off against the Raiders. He actually said to the owner of the team, or team president, I should say, Mike Brown, that basically he's giving game balls to him and the whole city of Cincinnati. That wasn't a metaphor. He literally meant it, because not long after the game, he actually decided to go out on the town, and he was literally giving out game balls to fans. In fact, he popped up in a local bar. I think the bar was Mount Lookout Tavern, and he was with alongside a few players, and they were handing out game balls to the people in the bar. You know what I got to say about that, man? I just have to applaud, because that right there is why we are in sports. We want to be involved in what the team is doing that we root for. And when we see the people that we root for give it back like that to us, how could you not root for them harder? All I gotta say to you, Zach, is kudos, my man. Coach, that was a beautiful sign of saying, you know what? You rode with us. Now it's time for us to show that we're riding with you all. I love seeing things like that. Dateline NFL playoffs. Now we talked about the Bengals. They will be traveling to Nashville to place the to hopefully beat the Titans. That game is the early kickoff, 4:30 p.m. on Saturday. The late kickoff, which is 8:15 ish Eastern, is going to be in blustery frozen tundra of Lambeau Field between the 49ers and the Packers. Sunday slated games. The early one will kick off at 3:30. That's the Rams at Tampa Bay. The opposite of frozen tundra will be in sunny Tampa, or possibly overcast and warm Tampa. And the late game, of course, is the Bills traveling to Arrowhead to face off against the Chiefs. For all of those games, what I believe what's going to happen in those affairs, you will see the resulting cards up in the upper right. But if you not on YouTube, go to YouTube and go to the 2-minute warning playlist, and you'll see who I think is going to win those contests. And those are your headlines. Later, we're going to talk about fans acting bad and throwing trash on the field. But coming up next, the Joker, is he trying to be a joke? Come on back. If your sports coverage is like a poker hand, you always want to play the winning hand, correct? That's what I thought. Well, what if I were to tell you there is a program where you can have intelligence with humor, with fact-based news, and all on a daily basis? I got that program for you. On the Daily, presented by Cole Sports, every Monday through Friday, only on YouTube. Welcome back to Cole Sports. Cole Johnson here. Now, Mr. Novak Djokovic, what can I say about him? 9-time Australian Open champion, 20 times Grand Slam, 20-time Grand Slam winner. He basically in the latter part of his career has put himself in the same pantheon as Rafael Nadal and Roger Federer, because those two each also own 20 Grand Slam titles in their careers. But he has made some missteps as of late. Now, he wanted to defend his Australian Open championship. Unfortunately, Australia said, it ain't going to happen. And I felt the whole thing was just whack. And I mean, how it was handled. Wait, but before I even continue, let me further go in. So Djokovic touched down in Australia about 2 weeks before the tournament was beginning. So basically right around the new year. And he was raring to go and ready to go. He was willing and ready and able to defend his title. But the one thing that he did not count on was the fact that Australia was trying to tighten down a little more in their COVID-19 vaccination mandates. So it is not really a well-kept secret that Djokovic is not vaccinated. But he basically takes the similar stance as Aaron Rodgers, that bad liar. But we're not talking about him. We're talking about Djokovic. He decided to go to Australia and say, okay, I'll apply for a different type of visa because I'll have these exemptions that I have. I will file it with Australia. They should clear me. I should be able to defend my title. That's what he was thinking. Australia was like, nobody, you ain't entering here. You shall not pass. That is what Australia was saying to Djokovic. But he decided to fight the power. And he did. He fought the power. And he actually ended up getting that ruling overturned. So, game on. He gets to defend his title. He's ready and raring to go again. He wants Grand Slam Championship number 21 and Australian Open Championship 10 because just like Roger Federer ruled at least, over Wimbledon, and just like Nadal rules, and probably still does currently, rules over Roland Garros in Paris, the French Open, Djokovic rules Australia. This guy is just lights out at this tournament. This is his Grand Slam. And it caters to his style. He's a hard hitter, and he hits with pace. And not only that, he also grinds opponents to pieces. I love his game because it is a test of wills. For example, about a decade ago, and I think it was the 2012 Australian Open, either 2012 or 2013, the final between himself and Rafael Nadal went almost 6 hours long. Imagine each set going about an hour long. It was literally a test of wills. It was as if you were seeing this battle. And so Djokovic wanted to have long rallies. Meanwhile, Nadal treated that tournament and treated that final like he was on the clay. And so he tried to extend points with basically returning impossible shots. It was just a great game. Now, it was a great match. Now, Djokovic won it. And so that basically set himself on his way to becoming one of the greatest players of this era, if not of all time. He was set to defend his title when there was something which was leaked. And what was that thing which was leaked? Well, it turns out that roughly 2 weeks before Christmas, Djokovic came down with COVID. He was COVID positive. Now, the news hit that he was COVID positive the very next day. He decides to attend a children's party. No! Are you kidding me? COVID positive, not masked up, you decide to attend a party. How irresponsible can you be, man? Look, the only reason why you aren't Dodo of the Week this week is simply because there were some other fools who acted more idiotic than you did in that case. But I digress. Australia catch wind of that, and then they said, oh, nobody. So you're willing to risk other people's lives being COVID positive, yet you're not going to be masked up, and you're going to probably spread this stuff to other people. That's what you did last month. You might have it this month. We ain't taking the risk or chances. You, my friend, are going to be deported. And he was blocked a second time. He had tried appealing it, but this time the ruling was upheld. And so he traveled to Dubai. Now, normally there is a tournament in Dubai, and it normally happens in the winter. But the Dubai duty-free tennis tournament doesn't take place until Valentine's Day. So the medical exemption that he tried to apply for and got denied, rightfully so, I may add, it just goes to show you that you can't try to fool people. And if you try to do this, you should reap the consequences that you gather. Now, whether you want to be or not want to be vaccinated, that is up to the individual. And the same goes with him. If you don't want to be vaccinated, fine, but take the precautions necessary to not want to be a spreader to other people. And the same thing with those who are vaccinated. Do the same thing. But to risk other people and to actually have proof of that risk, it's not good at all. Not for you, not for others. And imagine if you were COVID positive again and you were out in a tournament where you're going to be, and I think center court and the Australian Open in Melbourne has to seat roughly 17,000. Just imagine if you were to just go and spread that stuff all over the stadium. How idiotic could you be? So Australia, for your own good, saved you more trouble than you already are in because it makes people look at you suspect. And now, if you don't believe me, the French Open is saying, well, you know what the Australian Open did to you, Novak? You might not be playing in this tournament come the spring either. That's your gift for opening up a whole big can of worms. Well, will you be defending anything of Grand Slam worthy of a worthy note this year? Because you're the defending French Open champion too. You're the defending Wimbledon champion as well. So will Roland Garros and will Wimbledon say, I don't think so? I guess we'll have to see. But for the moment, Down Under says you have to go back home. Good for them. But you should have stuck with that decision the first time. When I come back, the DOLT of the week. You're listening to the classiest sports show on the planet. Go Sports! From the vault, a look back at a key moment in sports history. January 19th, 2002. The Oakland Raiders were 10-3, but hit a late season skid, losing their last three, but finished the year 10-6, winning the AFC West. Meanwhile, the Patriots were languishing at 6-5 for catching fire, winning 5 of their last games to win the AFC East. The Raiders went on to beat the Jets in the wild card round and traveled to Foxborough as the Patriots earned the number 2 seed in the AFC. The field was filled with snow as Foxborough Stadium witnessed a defensive struggle. The Raiders were up late, 13-10, with under 2 minutes to go in the game when the play remembered around the world happened.
42. Blitz. Lost the football. It's on the ground. Covered by the Raiders.
On the play. His college teammate, Charles Woodson, on the blitz. Tom Brady never sees him coming from the front side. Greg Biekert recovers the fumble. The exact term I can't think of, but if you throw a pass, and as you're faking that pass, now watch, as you're faking the pass, if it slipped out of your hand, that would be an incomplete pass.
After reviewing the play, the quarterback's arm was going forward. It is an incomplete pass. Second and 10 on the 42. Wow.
Adam Vinatieri kicked the game-tying field goal to send the game to overtime, and booted the game-winning field goal, sending the Patriots to the AFC Championship game. The Raiders went home feeling robbed and upset still to this day. The Patriots went on to notch their first Super Bowl championship in franchise history. Gillette Stadium went in favor of Gillette Stadium, as that game was the last Foxborough Stadium game ever played. The Patriots dynasty began with a peculiar rule in the snow, which is now no more, on this date in 2002. From the vault, brought to you by Cole Sports. Greatness, agony, defeat, struggle, victory, championship, immortality. Which moments stand out in your mind through the annals of time? Cole Sports presents That Was Then, a sports retrospective. Only on Patreon. Welcome back to Cole Sports. Cole Johnson's right here, and you already know what time it is, because it's time to get down to the nitty-gritty. Here is the next DOLT of the week. DOLT of the week is sponsored by nobody. The winner of this episode's DOLT of the week, hit the trumpets, is beautiful band known as Dak Prescott and Cowboys Fan. Now, why am I looping all of them in to this particular stew of ignominious behavior? I'm so glad you asked. I am doing so because it is ridiculous of what we saw. Now, the game itself was actually pretty entertaining. The game that I'm talking about between the 49ers and the Cowboys in Jerry World, late Sunday afternoon, early Sunday evening. The 49ers basically controlled the game, but they were only up 23-17. And we'll start there. With 14 seconds to go, Prescott decides to run up the middle, and I understand why he decided to do it, because the 49ers were guarding the sidelines, so basically the middle was wide open. So he scrambled from the 49ers 41 to the 49ers 27, and after he slid, he decided to basically hand the ball to the center. Center placed the ball. One problem. You have to hand the ball to the official for him to officially spot the ball. So, of course, the official bumped into Prescott, then got to the ball, spotted, and before the center could snap it, the game was over. So, of course, Cowboys Fan went ballistic and tossed things on the field. But what makes it even worse was when Prescott was alerted to the fans throwing stuff on the field. What did he have to say? I'll let you hear it for yourself.
Dak, what do you think about the fans throwing beer balls on the field there at the very end? Did you see that? I think one of them hit Tank Lawrence.
No, I didn't see that. That's sad. I mean, you're talking about a team, you're talking about men that come out each and every day of their lives and give everything to this sport, give everything to this game of football. Nobody wants to succeed more than we want to succeed. I understand fans and the word fan for fanatic. I get that. But to know everything that we put into this day in and day out, try our hardest, Nobody comes in the game wanting or expecting to lose, and for people to react that way when you're supposed to be a supporter and be with us through thick and thin, that's tough.
I think they were aiming at the referees.
Yeah, they went
Well,
referees.
shit, credit to them then.
That's what take.
Yeah,
They weren't
credit.
doing it.
Oh, credit to them.
Notice how the tune changed. He had the company line ready, willing, and able to be spat out. He basically said, well, fans throwing stuff on the field, basically saying that how our play was reflective of trash. Well, how dare they? Because we put in the work and the time day in, day out. We work hard to make sure that we put forth the best effort on the field. Sometimes it doesn't happen for you, and sometimes it does. This day, it didn't happen. But I'm surprised because they should ride with us through thick and thin. How dare they throw trash at us? No, Dak. No. It was meant to be thrown at referees. Oh, it was? Oh, they needed to do it. They need all the trash thrown at them. Come on, man. Really?
No!
That's what Gerald, as in Jerry Jones, was saying when he saw that. He was probably looking at that, or at least he heard it, was already scowling because his team that he thought was going to be in SoFi February 13th was not even going to come close to being there. And when he heard you, Prescott, say, credit to them, yeah, he hit you with the
No!
Because he knew that was further going to be a PR nightmare, which it was because you understood it. And 3 days later, you apologized on Twitter. Now, don't give me the understanding of, well, this is what you get when a player is only maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes past the end of a game, and he has to comport himself and be in front of the mic in post games. What do you expect? I expect him to be a professional, just like anybody else, because none of us want to lose. None of us do. But if you have a job to do, you have to comport yourself. You have to make sure that you do the job. And part of that job is to, when you win, be studious enough to understand, okay, let me take in the win. Let me show the excitement of the win, yes. But let me break down why we won. Let me even break down why we could have played better. And then we have to have the right focus to the next game. You don't see players in post game going, yeah, we put the foot in that team's behind. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, man, that team sucked. We don't see that when you get them 10, 15 minutes beyond the game after a win. So if we don't get that, then why should we get them refs suck. They needed to have trash thrown to them. No, man, really? And I did say, and Cowboys fan, let me direct you to this buzzer. You're there to root for your team. You're there to cheer on your team. You're there to express yourself if you don't like what your team is doing. Yes. But you're not there to throw trash on the field. That is not why you're there. And for those who do throw trash on the field, they should be banned from the arena, the ballpark, or the stadium, whichever game you're watching, whether it's hockey, baseball, football, or basketball, or even soccer, for the rest of the time you're breathing. There is no place at all for a fan to throw any object on the field. I don't care what the object is. It is dangerous. And I don't think people understand how dangerous it is to lob any type of object onto the field, because you can do some damage to people. This goes far beyond having fun with you like Stephen A. Smith did on ESPN's First Take, where he was just having his fill with all of you being downtrodden and saddened by the fact that you had Super Bowl hopes dashed and crashed only 4 weeks before the game actually happens. This isn't even about that. This is about the disappointment that I have in you as a fan. You aren't supposed to be a danger to society, but in that behavior, that is exactly what you're being. So stop with the nonsense. Comport yourself better than that. And Dak, stop riling the people up to do it. I don't care if you all were the direct ire of that trash. You don't deserve to have trash thrown at you either. You don't deserve to have that. The opponent doesn't either, and the referees don't deserve it. Whether you think they did a bad job or not. And I'm going to be here to say to you, the referees in that game, unlike the Raiders-Bengals game, did an excellent job in yours. So do not come at me and say, well, the refs were the reason why we them boys can't say that when we're in SoFi. No. The reason why your team is going home and they're sitting on the couch just like you are watching the rest of the playoffs, if you are going to watch the rest of the playoffs, is because you have a coaching staff that does not want to coach the team the way it is constructed. Because I'm here to say to you, your Cowboys team is constructed to run the football. It is not constructed to throw the ball 35, 40, 50 times in a game. And if you do, the result is the 23-17 elimination that the 49ers hung on you Sunday. So don't be angry at the referees. Don't be angry at the 49ers. No, be angry at the coaching staff of the Cowboys, in particular Mike McCarthy. Because he said that he took the temperature of the room of his team and said that the team was nervous. He tried to walk that back. But in saying that, it's a phrase that I remember. What is the film? Oh, yes. Remember the Titans. Yeah, you remember when one player said to the other, attitude reflects leadership, Captain. Well, let me say this to you, Mr. McCarthy. Quote, attitude reflects leadership, Coach McCarthy. Close quote. So, Cowboys fan, if you're going to be throwing trash anyway, you should throw it at the coaching staff, and you should heap it upon McCarthy, but you shouldn't at the stadium throw any trash at all. None. You had no business doing that. I get that you're upset. I get that you're angry. I get that you wanted to find somebody to blame. But your team is to blame for that loss, and your coaching staff is to blame for why they lost, not the referees. So stop being idiotic and harming people that don't need to be harmed. And just in case that you don't understand who needs to be harmed in the situation of if you want to throw trash on the field, there is a single solitary person who needs to be harmed whenever you attend a game. Trash thrown on the field is a no-no. No questions asked. No questions asked. No exceptions. No caveats. Shame on you, Cowboys fan, for wanting to actually harm people and being stupid in the midst of your anger. Sad. So just end this and go to the next segment, please. This sucks. I'm through with you, Cowboys fan. I'm just through with you. When I come back from Cowboys fan to the 2021 Raiders, what do I mean? Upon further review, is next. Perfect. discouragement, sorrow, distance. Your arguments cause damage to your family. The hurt leads to divorce. You feel like there is nowhere else to turn. But there is hope for you. That's where we come into play. There is an overcomer that lives inside of you. One ready to take on the world as you leap for joy, living in victory. You'll grow to love yourself and others. There's life after divorce, and you can claim it today. Get Over Divorce, where your new story begins here every Thursday on YouTube and Spreaker. Coming up on next week's Mothership Show, we're going to break down the NFL Championship weekend. We're also going to talk about the NBA MVP. I'll probably go in on that. And we might already have a Dolt of the Week for the next episode. But tune in. It's going to be fun. But we're not done with this episode. No. Now, we talked about the bad. We're going to talk about the good. And I actually have to appreciate the year that the Oakland, Los Angeles, Las Vegas Raiders put forth in 2021. It was a class in perseverance, and I am proud of this team. And I'm not a fan of the team. I'm just proud of the fact that they showed a lot of grit, a lot of gut, a lot of determination, and a lot of will. And even though they did not come down with a Super Bowl championship, they were really champions in other ways. What do I mean? Well, follow along as I put the 2021 Raiders upon further review. How can you quantify the season that was the 2021 Raiders? You could say it was tumultuous. You could say it was exhilarating. You could say it was a roller coaster. But even though their season ended this past Saturday, because of the special year the Raiders had, you would ultimately have to call it a success. The 2021 Raiders team motto should have been, "Hold my beer," because they had many moments where these three words could have been said. Believe it or not, the season actually started with hope and optimism. Even though they played in their new stadium, Allegiant Stadium, in the 2020 season, the 2021 season was the first season where fans were able to come into the stadium and see them play. However, that stadium wasn't in Oakland or in Los Angeles, but in Las Vegas. They sent the crowd home happy after their opening week contest against the Ravens. They traveled to the Steel City and disposed of the struggling Steelers. Then they came back home and won their second nail-biter there, this time to the upstart Dolphin squad. Things were looking up at 3-0. But little did they, and we know, the storm clouds were circling. After their first loss of the season to the Chargers in LA, more on them a little later, emails head coach John Gruden sent to then president and general manager of the Washington NFL franchise, Bruce Allen, were leaked. It disparaged the executive director of the NFL Players Association, DeMar Smith, and his appearance, as they were the target of Gruden's ire. Gruden held a press conference where he described those who were liars having rubber lips, and that his leaked email was not racist at all, and neither was he. He remained on the sidelines as the Raiders lost their first home game of the season to the lowly Bears. Around the same time, a story broke where Gruden admitted to calling the NFL commissioner, Roger Goodell, an unspecified expletive, which was a misogynistic slur. Gruden said that he was in a bad place around 2011, and he was fighting for the sport he so dearly loves. The day after the Bears' home loss, the New York Times dropped a bomb on the sports world, revealing sexist, homophobic, and misogynistic language in more emails Gruden wrote to Allen. He also called Goodell a homophobic slur and mentioned Michael Sam and how the owners should regard him, who was the man who ended up being the first openly gay player to be drafted by the NFL. With racist, homophobic, sexist, misogynistic, and elitist emails being leaked out in public, Gruden immediately resigned, claiming he did not want to be a distraction. Special teams coach and beloved figure on the team, Rich Bisaccia, replaced Gruden. The ripple effects were felt in different ways. On the field, though, the Raiders bounced back to rally behind Bisaccia, winning back-to-back games, one at Denver and at home against the Eagles. They went into the bye week with a 5-2 record. Being on top of the AFC West seemed to defy the drama which surrounded the team, yet they found ways to win. Then the big bombs dropped. Before their road game against the Giants, 2020 first-round draft pick Henry Ruggs III was involved in a fatal car crash. It was reported that he drove 156 miles per hour while intoxicated. The Raiders released Ruggs the day of his DOI crash. Then, a video was leaked of Raiders cornerback Damon Arnette brandishing a gun and making death threats. He was released the day after their Giants game. The off-the-field distractions finally seeped its way onto the field. A 23-16 loss on the road to the Giants. A 41-14 Sunday night home loss to the Chiefs. A 32-13 home loss to the Bengals. And the once promising season was on the brink of being over in a disastrous November swoon. It was topped off by a lawsuit from Gruden to the NFL for selectively targeting his emails out of the over 650,000 they collected, due to an investigation involving a toxic workplace environment with the Washington football team. The only bright spot in the month came in Thanksgiving when they went to AT&T Stadium and beat the Cowboys 36-33 in overtime. That Thanksgiving Day game broke their 3-game losing streak. It also may have saved their season, but trouble still lay ahead for the Silver and Black. They returned home, but took another loss in heartbreaking fashion against Washington. Then, after the Raiders stood on the Chiefs logo at midfield, they were summarily dismantled and dismissed 48-9, leaving the team 6-7. The last 4 games were against teams battling for playoff spots themselves. A loss to even one of them, and their season was over. A last-second field goal in Cleveland propelled them over the Browns. A hard-fought struggle got them the win and the sweep at home against Denver. Another last-second field goal, this time in Indianapolis, deflated the Colts' playoff chances. It also brought the Raiders to a winner-take-all matchup at home against the Chargers. Before that game happened, though, the off-the-field distractions reared its ugly head once again. This time in the form of cornerback Nate Hobbs, who was arrested on a DUI charge. Even though Hobbs played, it still was an unwelcome sight for a Raiders team focused on making the playoffs. They ended the Chargers season winning it on a field goal with no time remaining in overtime. The 35-32 victory clinched the playoff berth for the Raiders, something most people believed was a foregone conclusion after Gruden's departure in October. Although the Raiders lost to the Bengals in the wildcard round, they went down swinging. Even with errant whistles, they fought until their very last breath. The season ended with an INT at the Bengals 2. Even though record-wise the Raiders went 10-7 and lost in the wildcard round, this season would be considered a building block year for the Raiders. To the rest of us, it was a lesson in determination, focus, will, and perseverance. The 2021 Raiders came together despite the circumstances not being right. And even though they didn't bring home any hardware, they still were champions. Thank you so much for tuning in once again to the mothership of Cole Sports. Now, I want to hear what you have to say. Please, please, like this. Again, VIP. And for all of us here in Cole Sports, I'm Cole Johnson. And this has been yet another installment of Cole Sports! Thank you for tuning into Cole Sports. For apparel, go to Spring and type Cole Sports with a Z. VIP Boutique. To download this episode, go to Spreaker and type Cole Sports with a Z. To view, go to YouTube and type Cole Sports with a Z. This has been a presentation of Comey Media Incorporated.